Today I wanted to talk a little bit more about emotional Kung Fu and what does that mean to me and why I'm doing this. My name is Marek and I'm here to guide you on your journey to know yourself and love yourself. So what is Kung Fu? When people hear the word Kung Fu, people think of, cool badass martial art moves. Some MMA people I hear, say Kung Fu doesn't work. So there's many opinions for sure. But, Kung Fu really isn't necessarily a martial art. Kung Fu means literally to practice through time and effort. The two characters that are in the word Kung Fu is Gong means work and Fu means time. So working, practicing through time and putting in some effort. It also translates as a acquired skill. In China, when people talk about martial arts, they don't typically talk about Kung Fu, they typically talk about Wushu. There's different styles of Kung Fu or martial arts or Wushu. The Kung Fu typically is regarded in the West as a martial art or a style of a martial art. I have been practicing Wing Chun since 2012. And Wing Chun is one of the arts that I really enjoy, and also practiced Tai Chi since 2007. And in my practice I have combined a lot of things between the two arts, and they are actually pretty compatible arts, so there are a lot of similarities in them. One of the similarities is basically the internal principles that each of these arts has. This is not to say that in other martial arts there is no internal power. I mean, a lot of martial arts at the beginning deal with external power mostly. So you start learning the external movement, you start learning the body coordination, you start learning about breath, how that all correlates together. And then later on, as your body's movements are correct in a way of efficiency, you begin to learn the internal power. So how to use your relaxation, your visualization to impose more power onto your opponent. Now, at the beginning, when you start practicing internal arts, internal part of the martial arts, it's like starting all over. It's like learning ABC. So you start slowly. It's a good idea to start slowly and slow motion, a lot of slow motion stuff. So you can embody that movement with precision from internal focus, from internal feeling, rather than from the external that you have been doing perhaps up until now, or up until recently, or whenever, or you still do. So nothing wrong with the brute force. It definitely does work as well. One thing is that it tires body out very quickly. So when one uses the internal force, otherwise referred to often as chi or prana or ki, that flow can only be perceived when one is in deep state of relaxation in the mind, in the body. A lot of times in martial arts, when we get striked, we will focus on the point of the strike, on the point of the obstacle, how to block it, how to deal with it, how to deal with a kick, etc., whatever it is. And we forget that there is typically only one part of the body hitting us. The other part of the body is not doing much. So if you punch with one hand, the other one is typically retracted, just sitting there. If you kick with one leg, the other one is typically retracted and sitting there, standing there, or whatever. So in martial arts, you then basically begin to focus on the part of the body that isn't pushing or pulling or isn't creating obstacle, basically. That doesn't mean you don't block the punch. Yes, you still block it, but you focus on the opposite side. And take a look at some of these examples from the videos. And why do I call this emotional Kung Fu? Is because, for instance, in Kung Fu, when we are against one another and some part of him is trying to attack me, whether it's one side or other side, I feel that pressure, but I'm not going to resist it, okay? Try to get rid of it and then tense up in the process of doing that. I'm going to release, let that come at me, let my body relax and hit from another side, for instance, okay? So what I'm doing in Wing Chun Kung Fu, and obviously this is a martial art principle, is that when I press at him from one side, let's say this side right here, he won't ignore it, but he will relax into it. And then because there is no pressure on my other side, so I'm pressing here, because there's no pressure on this side, he can easily hit me from that side where there is no pressure, okay? So he's using my aggravation, my anger, my pressure against me in a sense, basically, okay? So in life is the same thing. Like when we experience some sort of a pain, some sort of obstacle, we tend to resist it. You know, when the pain hits, we focus on it, we give it a lot of attention, we want it to go away, and so we focus on it more and more and more. And more we give it attention, more it grows. Now, of course, you can, you know, pop a pill or something, and then pain will go away temporarily, but it'll come back eventually. And when you feel emotional pain, it'll likely just keep coming back all the time. So best thing really, in my opinion, is to actually face it and literally relax into it. So let it hit you in some sense, but use that momentum of that pressure that you feel from that emotion or whatever it is, that pain that you're feeling, to redirect your energy to what you feel is actually good that's coming out of this. Where in life are you being prompted to this particular event? Like, what is it bringing for you in life? And so a lot of this movement we end up practicing actually in a slower motion, because you can train your body to respond without tensing up. If you start going fast right away, your body will start going tense every time you move. So if we're going slowly, for instance, here there's a pressure here, there's pressure there. As we are moving back and forth, I change pressure, he changes pressure, he does something. We can follow that energy, okay? So wherever I press or I pull, he reacts and gives me energy back. Now we can simulate basically a slow motion striking exercise where he's responding to my strikes, I respond to his strikes, and I try to figure out what I could do there to hit, to protect myself, where I feel the pressure coming. Here, where there is no pressure, is hitting, okay? So learning when to hit where, learning the correct timing is really important in that. So, and eventually what you're learning to do here is that as you feel that pressure coming onto you, if you're fighting, you're resisting, keep pressing, you're fighting, you're resisting, eventually you're gonna get pushed. Even if I put more weight and I get bumped back. If he pushes and I actually release, and he push, and I release more, I find my center. Now that energy is going into the ground instead of this way towards me. Push harder, and I release more, and then I can change and redirect that energy back, okay? So being in that state of allowing, even welcoming that pressure to come your way. Just absorb, become a conduit, neutralize, and then return. And much like in dealing with your own emotions, it is important to get the grip around the emotion sooner the better. You know, once you start rolling into this fear and unknown and difficulty and pain, further you get, more difficult it is to come out of that. So likewise in martial arts, when we are doing something, we get into it, and let's say I lock up his arm or something, and he is in a lock, actively in the lock, it is possible to do something out of that lock. But if it's happening quickly and you get into that lock and you get hit, you obviously will be hurt even more. So sooner the better. Quicker you can respond, the better. Whether it's dealing with your emotions or whether it's responding, whether it's in martial arts with your opponent, or perhaps not on a battlefield in your relationship, although it may seem like a battlefield at times. You may be able to respond quicker to your spouse or a friend or something, or with a coworker, where you de-escalate the issue that may have arisen and may have then exploded into a big problem. So stay relaxed and react quickly. So, and now how does that emotional kung fu apply really from these principles that I was describing in martial arts? So basically, when we feel emotions or we have feelings about something, to feel the feelings means to neutralize their ability to influence our behavior. So I'll say it again. When to feel feelings means to neutralize their ability to influence our behavior. And so the feelings basically are correlating to our physical body's response, and then emotions correlate to the mental state and the mind. So when we talk about feelings, we're talking about, I have a gut feeling and I have a sensation. So it's connecting more to our spiritual or soulful being as well as the body, the physical body. So feelings we have with our senses physically in the body, and then we can also have feelings on the spiritual level where we sense stuff. Emotions are more connected to our mental being, or to our mind. And some of the emotions then that we haven't resolved get trapped and stay in the subconscious part of the mind versus the conscious mind. We can choose what we're gonna do with the thoughts that have created the feeling and the emotions that spawned because of those feelings. So once we feel feelings, they cannot hold us back anymore, basically. It's a release. We let them go. And sometimes that's way easier said than done. I totally get that. I mean, I get there every now and then as well. But again, it's a practice. So kung fu, it's a practice through time and effort. If you don't put time and effort into whatever you're learning, you're not gonna be able to master anything. You're not gonna be able to really have the skill. Okay, bottom line. So keep doing it, keep practicing it, and every time you become aware of a feeling or emotion that you're experiencing, thought you're creating, before it even becomes a feeling, before it even becomes emotion triggered by the feeling and thought, we have the ability to change that thought. Now, sometimes even changing the thought doesn't work because there is a deep-seated emotion that we've been carrying for, perhaps from a birth, or even before birth, or from childhood sometime, or from young adulthood, or from whenever, or in some cases from other lifetimes. So when we come across that kind of emotion that feels like that's seated a little bit deeper, it's good to have some professional that can guide you out of that situation and or help you retrain your thoughts. But if you don't have a way to get a professional, one thing that you can always try is to, again, center yourself as best as you can, depending on what thoughts are coming, whatever is difficult. Those thoughts are not in charge of you. You are in charge of those thoughts. Who is the you that is in charge of the thoughts? That's the question. The part of you that is aware. The part of you that's aware of the fact that you're having that thought. That part of you, higher self, soulful part of you, your presence, however you want to call it, that part of you knows what's best for you. It's part of a program that has been basically written by you into your system, that this is the thoughts that we are thinking every day. And whatever the thoughts are, we're thinking them every day over and over and over again. So if you don't like what's happening in your life, you're going to have to change the thoughts first. So anytime the thought comes in the morning, whenever you wake up and you think to yourself, ugh, another day, what am I going to do? I have no idea who I am. I don't know where I want to go. Those words came out of the thoughts, emotions, and feelings that basically tell you that you're worthless, that you're lost, that you don't have purpose, and in some sense, you're saying you're okay with that. So some part of you is saying that this is okay with me. It's been going on for years now. anyway, so I'm fine. Okay? And if you don't want to change those, fine. Keep living the way you live in and enjoy your life. But if you are done with those thoughts, if you really want to change that, begin your work. Begin your work every day. You become aware of those thoughts and you start to decide, is this a thought that works for me? This thought tells me that, yeah, well, money don't grow on trees. I don't know if I'm lovable. I don't know if a woman could love me. I don't know if a man could love me ever. So whatever your preference, of course. So once you notice these kind of thoughts that you have, your mind just ran those thoughts through, you can always say the opposite. Or ask yourself, where did I come up with these thoughts that now have created these beliefs about money, for instance, about the partnership, about whatever it is? Where did I come up with these? Do they work for me? Well, the answer likely, if you want to change, is no, they don't work for me. So override it. You have that power. You have created them, and you have practiced them over and over. You can now override them. Every time you catch yourself saying, well, I don't know that I can afford that trip. I don't know that I'll have enough money to be able to buy this or that or whatever, to afford whatever it is. You're coming from perspective of lack, and your belief in your system says basically there is not enough. And so again, ask yourself, where did this come from? Is there a parent that I've heard it from? Is there is there a caretaker, if not parent, that I've heard it from? Have I heard it at school from a teacher, or where did I hear that? And of course, then deciding, perhaps that it doesn't even know where did you hear it. Perhaps deciding that this is not what you want to think anymore. I mean, there is abundance, really. So sometimes we don't even know where things come from to us. And having that faith, having that trust that things come to us is important. And one way to practice these things is affirmations. What are affirmations? Thoughts that you are learning to rewrite your subconscious programs. So that's what I refer to as emotional kung fu. You're rewriting your programs. You're working at it day by day, moment by moment. Every time you notice the thoughts, the emotions, the feelings that you have, where are they coming from? So staying aware, very important. Without awareness, it's impossible, really. And when we let go of some of these feelings, some of these thoughts, some of these programs that we have created, a space gets created. A space for new experiences that we couldn't have had otherwise. Then we're able to allow new feelings, new emotions to come in, perhaps, hopefully, the ones that actually work for you. So we have a choice every day, every moment, to increase our awareness and return the energy that we gained, and then watch how more of that energy comes back to us. And so in the martial arts, for instance, when the strike comes, we absorb the strike by releasing. We neutralize that energy, ground it basically, and then we redirect it or return it. Depends on what we want to do, if we want to hurt somebody or not. So redirecting it makes the person, fly off or fall or turn and whatever. And returning it, of course, returning that energy back to them will basically hurt them. So kind of depends on the level of difficult situation that you find yourself in, should that ever happen, hopefully not. So being aware of that, where you're putting your attention is where you're putting your energy, always, all the time. So choose wisely about what you want to pay attention to. Enjoy your evening, enjoy your day, wherever you are, and I will see you next time.